Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Should we get started? Yeah. Okay. Ainsley, did you send the minutes from last meeting? Or they in?
Yes. Let me pull them up.
I think there's a date or a time that's not on it though. At least the one
Oh, I think I added that after I sent it. So that should
Okay,
be correct
good.
for 3/1 to 2 p.m.
Okay, I'm gonna write it in. Thank you.
Was I not at that meeting?
No, I don't think you were.
I thought I was.
No.
Maybe it was the one before that I'm thinking of. Oh, yeah.
It was the
Okay.
beginning of
never
the
mind.
month.
Yeah.
I can't remember what we talked about.
We talked about
I mean,
incentives
I
funding.
know we talked about funding and we talked about holding off on incentives.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can talk a little bit about technology as well. Tuition waivers and such.
Okay. So I haven't looked through these, so if anyone else did and wants to approve them, I'm sure it's fine.
I wasn't there or I would.
I can't approve them, but I will say that they're pretty accurate as the one who made them. So
Yep. Well, I'll make a move that they be approved.
Second.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the agenda. I don't think we have anybody new online. Ainsley, I don't know if I don't think there's anybody new to the group where we have to do any introductions or anything.
nope.
Am I wrong? Okay.
Oh,
All right, well,
I don't know.
I think for some people, there's a few
Yeah.
new people.
If Rochelle wants to introduce herself, I don't know if she's been to a higher education meeting yet.
Oh, good morning. I'm sorry, I'm driving, but yes, Rochelle Rubin, Director of Correctional Education. This would be my first time in this subcommittee, I think.
okay. Welcome. Why don't we just all go around and say our names then, real quick. I'll start. I'm Andrea Cantor. I'm chairing this work group, and I work at the University of Baltimore, and I direct our college program at Jessup Correctional Institution. Danielle, you want to go next? Or you probably know each other.
Danielle Cox, Director of Education, Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services.
Nominate somebody, Danielle.
Oh my God. Okay. Gordon.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gordon Pack. I'm a formerly incarcerated person. I had 118 credits towards my bachelor's degree before they took the Pell Grants in '94. Fortunately, Morgan University stepped up, and I am going to be enrolled in the fall semester to continue.
Yay!
I'll pass it.
Well, Gordon, we lost you, so I don't know who you passed it to.
I'll pass it to Judith.
Hi, I'm Judy Lichtenberg. I work with Major and Prepare, and I teach at JCI this semester. Been teaching at JCI and other prisons for about 9 years. And I will pass it to Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve Stewart, and I'm chair of the commission and formerly worked for the state as academic coordinator for correctional ed, and I'll pass it on to who I can see. I can't see everybody's name. I can see their faces, but let's see. I'll just take Rose Daly, because I can see her. Can't hear you.
Rose, you're on mute.
Sorry. Hi, Rose Daly, a member of Major and the Behind the Walls subcommittee group. And I'll pass it to Richard.
Hello, my name is Richard Gibson. I actually teach ethics classes at Cecil College. I'm a University of Baltimore grad, 2000, Hopkins grad, 2010. I'm a retired police commander, deputy chief, Westminster. Formerly worked at the Department of Public Safety, where I supervise background investigations. Now I am the chief of fraud investigations with the Maryland Insurance Administration. So I'm glad to be here.
Great. Welcome. Charles, you want to go?
Yeah, I can go. Good afternoon. I'm Charles Adams. I'm the executive director of Bowie State University Prison Education Program. And I can pass.
What did you say, Charles? Who'd you pass it to?
I pass on to Anita West.
Okay. Anita, are you there? Why don't we go to Karen? Karen, I think you unmuted, but we can't hear you. All right, I'm going to move to Meredith.
Hi, I'm Meredith Conde. I'm the Director of Operations for the Goucher Prison Education Partnership, and we offer a bachelor's degree at MCIJ and MCIW. I don't know who's left, Andrea.
John Griffin.
Still no sound, John. Guess we'll see it in the chat.
John
This is Anita. Can you hear me?
We can now, yeah.
Okay, good. It took me a minute to unmute. I don't know why, but so it's Anita Wiest. Thank you, Charles. I am a member of Major as well as the co-chair of the treatment subcommittee for MEJC. I'm also a member of Prepare. Also formerly employed at the Department of Corrections at ECI as a social worker and Eastern Regional Addiction Supervisor. I am very concerned about the lack of higher educational opportunities at our largest state prison, which is for CCI. And I'll pass it to, how about John Feaster? Did you go?
Not yet.
All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. John Feaster, Deputy Assistant Secretary at the Maryland Department of Labor, Division of Workforce Development and Adult Learning, with oversight of Correctional Ed, Adult Ed, and again, the Office of Workforce Development. And I'll pass it to Jamel.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Sorry for my tardiness. I clicked on the other link, but my name is Jamel Freeman, formerly incarcerated and less than a month MSW advanced standing student. I completed in 11 months of my master's degree, leadership, social policy change. I'm so excited. And also too, I was able to assist along with House Bill I'm having a blank, Delegate Harrison, occupational licensing with individuals with with a protection over 7 years. So we were able to pass that, and also assisted Delegate Valentine on House Bill 22, which requires detention to the correctional facility as well as the DOC to accumulate the addresses of individuals, before they, get incarcerated and after. So then that way it just helps reduce recidivism. So we were able to pass that too. So super excited about that. Sorry for my enthusiasm, but it just feels good to give back and show society that individuals are not looked at from their past, and that we can move forward as long as we stay connected to individuals like yourself. I know that was a long introduction, but I just had to say it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will pass it to, did Karen go already?
Karen put in the chat she's having mic issues, but she introduced herself in
Okay.
the chat. We have Alicia and John Griffin.
All right. John Griffith, is that what you just said?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And John's probably putting it in the chat. His sound isn't working. We should probably pass it to him.
Got it. Alicia's our last one.
Hi, I'm sorry about my camera again. I still have to call OTS to get it fixed. Alicia Azeltine, I'm at Towson University.
Thank you. And okay, let's move to our agenda items. Thank you, everybody. Ainsley, I think the next thing is it conference updates?
Yeah, so first we have two updates on HB 877 and site visits real quick. So HB 877, for those of you who don't know, extends the timeline of the commission to 2029. We are still going to be doing an interim report this year and a final report this year. And we are also working on, Dr. Stir, I and the work group chairs are working on a long-term strategic plan since the commission is being extended. So we can have some, concrete milestones to hit. And in terms of site visits, we did have some site visits scheduled for April and May, but those are going to be rescheduled. Those are going to be rescheduled to July. So Secretary Scruggs or an assistant secretary can join us on those visits because we have some legislators joining us. So those are the two updates.
Yeah, if I could, on the HB 877, as I said to some of you on the last committee, the CT meeting this morning, but there is some confusion with the new law extended to 2029, a commission extension. And so going back and forth with the delegate's office on a letter that we will get from him clarifying he wants us to do the interim report and the final report as scheduled this year, and then each year make reports on following years. So that's not very clear in the law. So we're going to stay on schedule with the law that created the commission, and then work towards, as Nancy said, milestones for things we'll work on in successive years. And I hope to have the delegate on the next commission meeting, or at least his chief of staff, to talk with us.
Great. Thank you. Ainsley, back to you. You have some other updates, or was that?
So Gordon, we don't have any new dates yet for the facility tours. We're working that out with the Department of Corrections and DPSCS. So we'll get back to you hopefully soon so we can have people sign up to join those visits. But those are all of the updates from me. So we can talk about the conferences.
Great. Thank you. So there were two conferences earlier this month, with the first one, and I think we might have mentioned this at the last meeting. The first one was Bowie's conference. So I'm going to ask Charles Adams if he could just share a little bit about his conference that he helped organize with Anthony Jackson.
Thank you. I'm delighted to do so. We held out the inaugural
Charles, you froze.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So we held our inaugural Prison to HBCU Summit April 4th, 5th, and 6th. We had over 220 registered to the conference. We had approximately 130 people come through. Could be a little more, could be a little less. I thought we had a very engaging 3-day conference. We had some really good feedback from the participants. Many of my colleagues were part of the conference through panel open discussion. So we had really good feedback. For us, it was important to reach out to our fellow HBCU at the national level. So we had 20 HBCUs come to the conference expressing interest in creating educational programs behind the wall. So we are pleased to announce that we're creating a cohort of 5 HBCUs, and we'll convene this September for our first convening workshop with those 5 schools. But we have ongoing support for those 5 institutions, and at next year's conference, we'll report out their progress towards creating educational programs behind the wall. So we definitely will provide them with some technical support and may reach out to my colleagues to assist us with that. So we're already planning for our conference next year, the second conference next April. So we're excited. Really good work taking place around creating a buzz and creating a space for HBCUs to come behind the wall.
That's awesome. Okay. Thanks, Charles, and congratulations. Anita has her hand up.
Yes, hi, Charles. Was University of Maryland Eastern Shore at that conference?
Yes.
They were?
Yes.
So they are interested in coming into ECI to provide some educational opportunities?
Yeah, they're definitely interested in creating a prison education program.
Well, that's super. I've been trying to reach out to them. Can we talk later, maybe?
Danielle has, I think, wants to respond to that.
I've spoken to a couple times representatives and told them the process, what that approval path looks like, what they need to do. But I have yet to receive any, beginning that I'm the first step, and they know what they need to do with that. They've gotten out all the information, but they have yet to reach out. So if they are interested, then please, make sure that they do so that we can get them started in that path, because it does take quite a while to get the approval process taken care of.
And Danielle, what you're pointing out is there is a U.S. Department of Education process for approval, and they have to go through with corrections and the U.S. Department of Education. And so that's very crucial because, as you point out, it takes a while. Maybe if they start today, it might not be for a couple of years that they actually can start classes. So it's important.
Approximately about a year and a half, depending on now with everything going on, could be longer.
And who knows, with everything going on now. But anyway, so it's important that we know that where they are in the process, and apparently they haven't really started yet because you're one of the first people they have to get in touch with as coordinator, because the law creates the federal law, in case anybody doesn't understand it, says that the higher education programs have to be coordinated by the corrections department. And so that's why Danielle's position is there to help facilitate and coordinate that.
And
among many other things.
And I have reached out to Dr. Allen, the provost, who referred me to a Dr. Thomas Banks. Are you familiar with that name? Okay.
I believe that is who I originally spoke to, if I'm not mistaken.
She hasn't responded to me at all. my emails.
Then maybe it's not the same. No, the person I spoke to originally and had a meeting with was a gentleman, so I'm not sure who. And that
But
was
Charles,
probably about a year ago. Yeah.
Just to be clear, so we have a cohort of 5 HBCUs. They are not one of those 5. So
oh, UMES is not.
into the process,
Could you
they're
say
not.
who the 5 are, Charles?
I'm not, I will be reporting that out as we solidify and make sure that the infrastructure, as far as everything's in place to announce when we do that at the appropriate time.
Charles, I think the question maybe is also about location. Like you're going to pick schools from other states, not just Maryland.
Yes. Oh, yeah. All these HBCUs that we're currently working with are outside the state of Maryland.
Yeah. And those aren't ones that are going to be coming behind the fence in Maryland. This is I'm assuming some sort of cohort you're getting together to just discuss and improve and HBCUs across the nation, right?
For example, Grambling State University is interested in starting a prison education program, obviously in Louisiana. So it's not, so I apologize for being unclear. It's not the HBCUs in Maryland. We're working on the national level. So I apologize for that mix up. It's not just HBCUs in Maryland. These are national in scope.
So you're not in touch with UMES.
Yeah, I spoke to UMES about starting a prison education program, and it was Dr. Thomas. And so we've had some discussions as far as her being interested in the process, and Danielle's correct. There's a process that you have to go through, and I don't know at what stage they're at as far as willing to pull the trigger. There were some internal discussions about funding, location, curriculum, all of that was part of our discussion.
Charles,
Yeah.
Can I ask, you said 5 HBCUs nationally. So what would they do? I mean, I can understand they could have a terrific role. What are they planning to do that would help us here in Maryland?
Well, I think as far as helping us in Maryland, other than being another spokesperson for higher education behind the wall, one of our secondary functions at Bowie is to really get HBCUs nationally involved. There's only
I think you froze.
So we think that that's across the country. So there's
How
only
many did
3.
you say, Charles?
I'm sorry?
How many did you say across the country?
There used to be 4, and now there's 3. Now there's HBCUs such as Morehouse offering courses, but not degree programs. There's HBCUs such as Morehouse, South Carolina State that's offering courses, but not degree programs.
Thank you. And just to share, Ainsley put in the chat the process for Maryland. Anita, so you could take a look at that, and Judy, whoever else is interested in the process of a university to begin to offer courses inside. But not on that sheet is the internal process that each university has to go through, which takes the longest probably. And Alicia, if she wants to share anything about Towson, but they've been working on that internal process and the process with MHEC and Middle States and so on. It's just a very long process all around, which is why you don't see a program right now, probably. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm aware that it's a long process. I'm a member of the community here.
Yeah.
Okay. And I worked at ECI. I'm very familiar with the prison. And there's 3,300 people incarcerated there. So I think it's critical that there be some type of higher education offered there. And because I'm a member of this community, I'm really speaking out and plan to keep speaking out about this. So Charles, I'm going to put my email in the chat and my phone number. If maybe we could touch base and somehow, I mean, there's only so much Danielle can do, you know, but maybe.
Unfortunately, it's on the college. You know, they're the ones that have to take that step and
Right.
make that decision and come.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but as a member of the community here, and I can get other members of the community together as well, because I mean, this is something that UMES is 10 minutes from ECI, 10 minutes.
Anita, also, what's besides UMES, I mean, we have Warwick Tech that's backing out now because of the insufficient resources. And so, I mean, I think that it would be good to throw that in the mix because, I mean, maybe there's something that can be done to keep them in. That I would presume that they're already approved. So if they could get some, no, they're not.
UMES
they were experimental, but they haven't applied.
No,
You mean
they have
Warwick?
not. Yeah, UMES has not even started the process.
No, but I'm talking about Warwick Tech.
Oh, Warwick, they are pulling out. They had their graduation. They're done. Yeah.
But I mean, they are approved.
No, they were a second chance Pell.
Experimental grant. So that's the end of that. They're not going to do anymore. Is that it?
Correct. So they would still have to go through the same approval process as.
So they haven't even started the process either.
They have not either because they planned on pulling out.
Wow. I was hoping that maybe there could be some pressure to get Warwick Tech to continue to offer stuff. But if they haven't, because there were experimental grants for those who don't know the process. There were for a number of years experimental Pell grants, and Warwick Tech was one of them. And if they're not applying for under the new regulations, that just puts the whole Eastern Shore even under worse situation.
And actually, the colleges who were second chance Pell had to actually tell the Department of Ed, and Andrea and Meredith know this, if they were planning on applying and moving over as a PEP, and Warwick said no, and they.
I got it.
No.
That's good information, but bad information. I'm sorry. It's
Yeah.
And I guess there's no other. I mean, other colleges could technically go out and offer some courses, I imagine, but that are already approved. But
Salisbury's right here. Salisbury University is right here as well.
Yeah, they could also. They have not reached out either.
I reached out to them as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking, I mean, is there any way that some of our current universities are approved now and doing it? But that'd be a real reach for them. I mean, to go out there, but just stuff.
And actually, we don't have any that are currently officially approved as a PEP yet. The one who's the furthest along is actually Bowie State. You know, they are in that kind of DOE, process right now. Department of Ed, or Ed, I'm sorry, not DOE, not the Department of Energy. But they are the furthest along, but no one is actually approved as an official PEP right now.
So wait a minute, make sure we have several colleges providing courses right now.
Under second chance Pell still. Well, they're in that, what is it called right now?
Revised
experiment. Yes.
Okay, so how long does that last before the revised experiment continues? Until
January 1st, 2026.
January 1st.
Okay, so that means everybody that's in is currently in will get approved by then.
We're trying.
They're all
pretty important information. I mean, some of this I didn't really realize the particulars, so it's just good information to know.
Yeah, we all are in the process. If I could also share a little bit about what's happening with the University System of Maryland, where Eastern Shore is part of the system. They are working towards creating a statewide effort where they help other public universities and community colleges get into this work, right? So they are, they have plans in collaboration with public safety to expand this work. It's just going to take a little bit of time they are actually trying to find some funding to help startup programs. So it's, I would say in a year from now, we'll be maybe moving a little bit closer to getting more colleges and universities involved. So I think we'll see it. It's just slow.
This is the University System of Maryland, the whole.
Yeah, the University System of Maryland, USM, is taking the lead on trying to create a statewide collaboration where they take the lead in getting more universities involved by supporting them, hopefully financially. There was a report, I know Steve and Ainsley have it, a bunch of us have it because we were part of their work group to kind of study the state of this, no, not the state, prison education in the state of Maryland. So there's a report, and Ainsley's going to put it in the Dropbox. Probably there already. It is there.
It's a drop, yeah.
How do you find
Yeah. So
Dropbox?
if anyone wants to look at that, it's in there. It's an excellent report that really highlights, what we're doing and goals for the future. It all kind of comes down to USM securing some funding to, help with some of the goals. But
I
there's a
just
lot
ask how you find the Dropbox. I can see when it's linked now in the chat, but if I just want to find it, when I'm off.
I put it on my
maybe send it in
desktop.
an email. Maybe the direct link in an email would be great.
Would it be helpful if I linked it on the commission website? So
That's good.
Okay, then it will live there. So you can go to the commission website and I'll put a link there.
Judith,
And
I just put it on my
where all the
desktop.
minutes and agendas will live. Okay. So I bring up the USM work because there's a lot of overlap with what we're talking about here and what they have done in this report and their plans. So I had more to talk about with them as we go through some of the other agenda items, but Danielle has a hand up.
I just wanted to mention, and I don't know if we've mentioned it before, but we signed a MOU, an umbrella MOU with the University System of Maryland back, oh my gosh, it's had to have been at least a year and a half ago, maybe a year.
It was April 23, I think.
Okay, yeah, so it's been a while to ensure that all 12 of the universities under USM can have a pathway and the support of the university system to do this work. So of course USM is, or UMES is, I would assume part of that, right? So, and then they have to still go through the same approval process. It just makes it so that that main umbrella MOU, it takes less time to create the MOU and go through the MOU process, because the colleges now only have to do like a 2-page addendum that has specific stuff that the Department of Ed needs to have that is very specific to their university. But so it makes that process a lot easier to do.
Does it speed it up?
Yeah, well, it speeds up the process with the MOU and the applying to our stakeholder committee. And then also they can kind of in tandem do the middle states approval because they already have that main MOU, and then they're working on that addendum and stuff. So it makes that a lot easier, that process a lot shorter, at least the state process, right? Like now once they get to the Department of Ed, all bets are off. That's the same as everybody else, but at least that is a lot easier. But the consortium that I think is it a committee or a consortium? I can't remember what we call the USM thing, but it's made up of a vast variety of people who aren't even part of USM. Gouchers part of it too, because they have a prison education program. So their goal, like Andrea said, is just specifically to help support prison education, no matter who the college might be that is coming behind the fence. And whether it's their colleges or other colleges. And I believe we have a meeting actually, I believe tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a great, effort from them, and also to help support funding and support legislatively, because they do have some sway in that area. though everybody's budgets are still.
Okay. John had a question in the chat, and no offense, John, I don't even want to talk about it. But if anyone wants to respond in the chat, or if anyone has inside knowledge about just the reality of getting applications in and the Department of Ed approving them and us actually being able to operate.
So Andrew, though, is that just when you have to have your application in by?
It has to
That's
be the
right.
application.
Yeah. So that's just when they have to have their application to Department of Ed in by. Like, so I think we are on track with all of our previous second chance val to have their applications into Ed by then. Now approved by Ed by then? No, probably not, but at least to have them in who are currently second chance.
Yeah, Alicia has her hand up. She might be correcting my date or
Oh,
giving you
no.
context.
I just, in terms of approvals, I was looking into, we did a teach-in at Towson and I was talking about financial aid, and the Department of Ed cuts, there was about half of the staff that was cut, but particular divisions within the Department of Ed, and one is student financial aid. They lost like almost 400 staff. So the problem may not necessarily be the likelihood of like approval or not approval. It's just, is there a staff person that is going to be able to review these in a timely manner? And then like, that's going to be the issue. Is there even a body to do that? So that, like, that's an unanswerable question.
There have been some approved since that happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I just heard they couldn't even post them on the website because they didn't have the staff. Like, it hasn't been updated on the website since December,
yeah.
which new program. So that's probably more the issue of that we'll be facing.
Yeah. I know that two of them just got approved last week. So in other parts of the nation, so I know they're getting approved. Whether it's being posted by some person from IT is, who knows, but yeah, they are getting approved at least. But these are people who've had their applications in there for, a year or so.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us are concerned about being approved. It's just a matter of getting it in on time. We've been operating, most of us, and it's just a matter of paperwork. Yeah, and I imagine, I'm sure there's language out there somewhere that, they can take as long as they want, but we're still going to operate under the revised experiment until it just kind of transfers over to the approved prison ed program. It's complicated. It sounds really complicated, but it's really just a matter of process, and we're all on the right path. Okay, should we move from this topic? The other agenda item, Charles gave an update about the HBCU Summit and the other conference that, if anyone wants to share any updates on, that a handful of us went to, was the National Conference for Higher Ed in Prison, which was the week of April 10th that a few of us attended. And that conference had about 1,000 people from across the country. So higher ed, corrections, reentry programs, all came together for 2 days in New Orleans. A lot of the sessions were around what we're talking about, the approval process for the PEP, Prison Education Program, through the Department of Ed. So there was a lot of conversation about that. There were panels on reentry, technology, statewide efforts of doing this work, and many other things. I don't know if anyone wants to share anything really eye-opening, relevant to our work.
Go ahead, Ainsley.
No, you could go ahead.
I might be saying the same thing that I was going to say anyways. Actually, Ainsley and I spoke to Unlock Labs after an amazing presentation by them to talk about our technical difficulties behind the fence and the fact that, a lot of the people who were asking questions and stuff during a lot of those technical ones that talked about like internet capability and that sort of thing were actually, most of them were college-based people that, how do you get DOC to approve to do this? Or how do you get this? How do you do that? And I kind of just sat there and didn't say anything, and then went up to Jessica after the meeting and said, okay, I don't have to say that. I know it's approved. Like, we've already gone through all that. I have the approval. I've got the ability and to do it. I just need the money to do it. And the great thing is they are in the process of selecting 5 states to be able to fund, to do a technology behind the fence and a really robust internet capabilities and that sort of thing. So I've been in contact with her afterwards, and we are hoping, fingers crossed, between them and JFF, the Jobs for the Future, who, we are also really good partners with, that we can hopefully make that happen. One of the things that we had applied for this was $12 million, or close to 12 million from NTIA, which was the Digital Equity Act grant, which we all know that no corrections agency or corrections departments were selected for any of those grants that were given out for the Digital Equity Act through Commerce, which is very disappointing. The only people who actually got anything that had anything to do with corrections was PD Green, which comes behind the fence to do some tutoring and stuff as part of a larger grant application. So that's kind of disappointing to hear that. I know there were tons of states who put in for it and nobody got it. Now there is still a little bit money in the pot that they could award. However, right now, the climate in DC, I doubt that money will actually end up being awarded. Because of that, we have to try to seek out other available spots where we can, because $12 million is a lot of money. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I even told her the number and she didn't shy away from it. So, right, Ainsley? So that was a good thing too. So fingers crossed we can try to make that happen.
So Danielle, when you started your comment earlier, you talked about funding source. I was hoping that non-federal. And there are some non-federal.
Oh yeah, they're non-federal. Yeah, no.
And so what is it again?
Unlocked Labs.
Okay.
In addition, I've also been in talks with Ascendium. If anybody knows who Ascendium is, I know my higher ed people do. They do a lot of funding for post-secondary education programs behind the fence. So between them and also Unlock Labs, I think that we can try to get the funding we need to be able to get our direct internet access in, that will cover the schools. At least that 12 million was just for all the schools. So that will not just cover our post-secondary programs, but it'll be in there. So any of our educational programs will be able to access it. That's all of our adult basic ed, GED, career and technical, and also our higher ed programs. And then also the other thing that we need to try to do at some point is our housing units, but we all know there's difficulties there because of our contract with the current tablet provider, and they already have internet wiring and stuff in the housing units, and that's going to be a harder conversation. Plus that's beyond the 12 million. So if we can at least get the schools down pat, that's a step in the right direction at this point. So
one would think that the Jared Kushner Foundation, if there was such a thing, would be interested. I mean, Jared Kushner was instrumental in getting Pell Grants back during the first Trump administration because of his father's experience in the federal prisons, and he became I wonder if there aren't some very conservative groups out there who might be willing to help.
No, we'll have to see. The other update is we are also in the process and already have talked to, and Labor's been involved in these conversations, and with Do It and Network Maryland and other entities. We're in the process of looking into doing first piloting this at MCIW. So getting it off the ground, all the kinks rolled out and everything. That's a process though. We have to cross our I's and dot our T's to make sure we do everything right. But that ball is rolling. And thanks to, you know, the partnership with the Department of Labor and making sure to get that done. So.
Danielle,
All right, Karen, go.
thanks, Danielle. Just real quick, you were on the agenda to talk about technology, so you just gave your update. So
we're good.
Thank you for your update. But one question, and again, I've been a little MIA, so I don't know the answer. I should know the answer. I think I do. So you have some technology funding though, because you're starting to implement Origin into JCI. So that's.
So we got, right now, we have a grant through the Department of Justice, through the BJA. And if anybody has been watching the news, you know what's happening with the Department of Justice grants. So we have yet to be told we were one of the 380 some grants out of the Department of Justice that were cut. We have about $1 million that is wrapped up in 3 contractual people over a 3-year period as education specialists who work both inside and outside the fence. They will have offices at the Enoch Pratt libraries and a couple others throughout the state. And the other funding in there was, yes, you're right, was for licenses for Origin for our post-secondary programs. We have already started, Bowie is kind of piloting it for us. Getting that up and running and using the LMS system and using the virtual instruction and stuff. And then the students have their laptops and have access to it on there too. So JCI was the first facility. We basically are running that with a kind of rigged up system of internet to our virtual visiting line, which is not ideal, because it's kind of running off our regular DPSCS network against firewalls and all this other stuff. And it is not, we definitely do not want that to happen elsewhere, because it's just not the most secure, even though because we chose Origin as the provider. And the reason why we did that is because of Labor's great relationship with Origin and their secure platform and everything. In addition to the ability for their LMS to be able to import from any other LMS system. So you can import from Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, wherever you want to their LMS system from those. And then you can also export from their LMS system back into those. So instead of having a company who says, oh, we'll put Blackboard on there. Well, if Dr. Adams at Bowie doesn't have Blackboard on their university campus and pay for those licenses already, then that means the campus is going to have to pay for licenses for Blackboard on those tablets. And so all of our post-secondary have different LMS systems. So we can't just say, we can't have 5 different LMSs that we are then maintaining, because that would mean our ITCD would have to maintain all that. So we had to go with a company that was going to, sorry about that, had to go with a company who was going to be able to provide an LMS and a robust, secure system that is maintained 24/7 by them, and we don't have to do it. And then that way they have access to all that. In addition, there's workforce development stuff on there. There's reentry support. There's cognitive behavioral stuff. There's stuff for them to do their career advising, financial aid advising, and everything else. So we're even looking into counseling services with Bowie. So it's, you know, it was the best way to go about doing it. But we have it pretty much locked down as best as we can on that line right now. But with that 12 million, the goal is to do a separate segmented education network that will be completely separate from our network and secured and locked down. So, and then we would hire like 3 or 4 computer network specialists who would then be part of the ITCD team to maintain that network.
So you said that this is going to go on a JCI and Bowie.
Yeah, Bowie's right now kind of piloting since the beginning of the spring semester with the Origin platform. And then to get us up and running here. All the other colleges are currently in talks with Origin to get their contracts underway. But part of our grant, that DOJ grant, was to pay for 2 years of licenses for the colleges. So I'm just keeping my fingers and toes crossed that we do not lose that grant, because not only will we lose those education specialists who will be that contact between the inside and outside for those post-secondary students to get back to college and have transportation to get there and whatever else they need, they're also going that pays for those licenses. It also pays for our vehicles for change virtual reality licenses. So over the next 3 years. So it's it would be a shame. Though I did, while we were on the other CTE call, I don't know if you saw me throw up my hands and put my head down, but our technical assistance provider for DOJ, who CSG, who supports all technical assistance for all DOJ grants, we were told no longer will be working with us because they lost the contract with the Department of Justice. They canceled the contract. So hopefully that is not the first piece of the cutoff of that funding, and it's just that we lost TA. So
All part of Doge. Wonderful.
Thanks, Danielle. So we have about 7 minutes left. The other agenda items, I can't see the agenda. Sorry, I don't have it pulled up.
Sorry, I'm pulling it up right now. I don't believe that we had any other agenda items except for, just going over what people had learned at the conferences.
Okay.
But if I could, Andrea, what I'd like to do and is that I've mentioned this in other meetings, as our interim report, we're going to come up with issues, and these key issues that we have, the 4 here, will be highlighted. Each committee has its own issues. And so then the interim report, which is due in June to the legislature, will list the issues that we have and try to put some, at least maybe a paragraph or so on each one of these issues, depending on each one and how complex we want to be, to tell people what we're doing, what the issues are that we've raised in each one of our groups, and then have of course, the commission will approve the interim report that we give in. But
Steve, could we have Meredith talk a little bit about the space and funding, because Goucher, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot there, Meredith, but with the trailers, which is solving one of our space issues.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about the project broadly speaking. It is funded at least probably about 50% in a federal earmark that we applied for and got, which was amazing. So that was $355,000. I think ultimately the project is going to cost us about $700,000 plus. That's just because of the contractors, really. The trailers themselves are like $315,000. So like the earmark paid for like the physical trailers, but not the work around the installation. We are very excited about it. So we're installing 2 trailers at MCIW, which will allow us to offer classes during the day, because right now we're using the GD classrooms only in the afternoon and evening. And it's also just been really fun for us to think about like a Goucher specific space and being able to like have technology and like really create a space that's like similar to an actual college classroom in a way that we're very excited about. But that is resolving a huge spacing issue at MCIW specifically, because there is a lot of programming at W. So in general, getting classroom space can be challenging. And we have an alternative solution at the men's facility that does not involve a trailer, unfortunately. But I don't know if there's anything else that would be helpful for me to say there, Danielle. I'm happy to.
No, we would have loved to have put one of the trailers at MCIJ, unfortunately. And this is something actually Rochelle could probably speak to with labor, is part of that wasn't a really good place to put a prison. Looking back, like however many years they did it, because it's literally built on somewhat swampy land and things are sinking. So, and part of that is the occupational training building that labor has. So we're having to do all these workarounds, capital construction to be able to build it up and make sure that it's safe to be able to even go into it. And so putting a trailer, we looked all around and we were like, yeah, no, probably not the safest thing to do is put a trailer on swamp land.
Yeah. Fortunately, we have worked out like a positive partnership with the chaplain there. So we're going to be able to use the classrooms in the chapel during the day, which I think just does sort of broadly speak to like when looking to expanding for space, really being creative about the space that already exists, like is important.
And I think when we get to the final, or I guess final report in November, December, we're going to add some discussion in about, the trailer as a potential solution, since you guys are doing it. So hopefully we'll have more information. Maybe we'll be in the works at that time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want our deadline to be the end of November, because if we get into December, it doesn't give the legislature much time to look at stuff that we've come up with in case there's some recommendations that might require legislation. So.
Great. So we have about 2 minutes left. Anything else from anybody? Any updates? Our next meeting is about 1 month from now.
Yes, I believe it's May 24th. I should just have that on hand for every meeting. Sorry about that.
Not the 24th, it's a Saturday. So probably the 22nd or the 29th. It's the 29th.
29th. There we go. I shouldn't try to guess.
Great. So at that meeting, we will have a draft of the report that's going to be submitted in June. That will include a lot of the things we've talked about here. Anything else that we need for that report, since that's almost a month away? Steve, Ainsley, I don't know if you need anything else from this.
It means that we'll be working with Andrea and anybody else who wants to get that part of the report together. So Andrew's got plenty to do, even though we only meet once a month. I mean, we meet in between.
And I will share, yesterday I met with Ainsley and Steve, and we didn't get to talk about it today, and we haven't been talking about it, but I did say that in this report, or maybe just the one that comes in November, we need to include something about reentry and helping students continue their education post-release. We haven't had much of that discussion, so perhaps at the next meeting, maybe we could talk about that, but I'd like to just have it in there, a few sentences, because I want to make sure we talk about that a little bit more over the next several meetings. I think it's really important, and it's always the last thing people talk about. So I think we should highlight it.
I think we should add that as an issue, even if we just have a sentence or two in our interim report. Reentry of students, for higher ed.
Yeah. Great. So thank you, everybody, and we will touch base again in about a month.
Okay, thank you.
Meeting adjourned.